Hey everybody, it's me again. I'm out wandering the streets because it's nice outside and there's not really a whole lot else to do. So I apologize about the lighting because it's a little dark. Hopefully you can hear me okay. Somebody was randomly driving a motorcycle and what looked like an ATV down the street, which you don't really see. But I had some things on my mind lately, and there was something that I've been working on for a while, but I haven't actually written it out yet. So we're just gonna kind of wing it and see how it goes. So hopefully this whole thing makes some sense to people. If it doesn't, feel free to leave a comment below. As you can tell by looking at my eyeballs, with a little bit of light that you can see, I have a lot of dark circles under my eyes. I haven't been sleeping a whole lot lately. There's been some things on my mind in regards to communications and how we communicate with other people and the people around us, and not just the people that we have directly in our lives. Oh, here they come with the ATV again. Or a few of them. I don't know. Very confused. Normally the cops would pull them over, but whatever. So anyway, communication. So, in the United States, we spend the majority of our time on our phones or on social media or doing one thing or another that involves talking to other people. A lot of our communication with our families are done through text message or through, again, like messaging back and forth on social media. People set up events through social media. People talk on social media. We have hundreds of people on our friends list sometimes, but how many people do we actually know? And how much do we actually communicate with them? Now, when I talk about communication, I'm not talking about saying hello and saying goodbye and walking past people in the hallway at work and going, hey, how's it going? Because we all know what the answer is. You know, you walk past somebody and you say, hey, how you doing? The response is always, oh, yeah, I'm good, or I'm fine, how are you? Nobody actually gives a shit about how you're actually doing. When is the last time that we sat down and had a real conversation with someone and asked them how they're really doing? You know, we may talk to our family sometimes and ask them, but do we actually really break it down and get into the nitty-gritty of things? You know, one thing that I pride myself in is that the people that are closest to me, I try to spend time talking to. You know, if I know somebody's in a bad place, I want to try and sit down and be like, hey, what's going on? What can I do to help? Or do you just need to sit down and have a real conversation? You know, do we need to sit down so you can talk out whatever's going on? I'm not always very good at it. You know, there's times when I blow people off just like everybody else. There's times when I'll go an extended period of time not talking to someone in my family or not talking to anybody, not because I don't care about them, but just because I get wrapped up in my own life and I forget to drop a line to people. But most of the time, I'm usually pretty good at talking to people and seeing how they're really doing. But even that only goes so far. we spend so much of our time wrapped up in our own lives or wrapped up in our own heads that we tend to ignore what's going on around us and what's going on in front of our faces. You know, we have to take a step back sometimes and really look and see and really ask how people are doing. You know, when you're married or when you have a boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever, significant other, we kind of take for granted that person that you're with is okay, but sometimes they're not. And just because you're with them, just because you're married or you're dating or whatever, sometimes you have to sit down with them and be like, babe, what's going on? What's going on in your mind? What's going on in your heart? What is bothering you? What's not bothering you? You know, is there something that you're happy about? Is there something that you're sad about? Did someone at work say something stupid? Is the world gone mad and it's driving you crazy? Like, just because we are with someone does not mean that they're automatically going to open up and tell you what's going on in their brains. Messaging people, text messages and messaging through Facebook and stuff like that, it's great. And it does open a lot of doors for communication. But there's a huge piece of communications that are missing when that's the sole way that we communicate with people. One of the classes that I took in college, I went to school to be a pastor, actually. And then over time, that shifted. And I shifted into a counseling degree. And one of the big things that we talked about in class was body language. Body language plays a huge part in the human experience. We tend to show certain things through our body languages that we wouldn't necessarily say out loud. You know, when you're you know, your boss may be pissed off at you but doesn't want to say anything, but their actions are going to tell you. Their body language is going to say it. You know, I don't know if you've ever gotten it before, but the death glare from your spouse or from your girlfriend or your boyfriend or whatever, where they give you that look and you get that feeling in your heart like, oh shit, I'm in a lot of trouble. I don't know what I did, but clearly I did something stupid. You're not going to see that through a text message or through a social media post or anything like that. You will only really see that by looking at someone when you're talking. There's no lights through this stretch, so I apologize. It's kind of dark. Another part of communication that we don't really acknowledge very often is not just body language, but also tone of voice. When you're talking to someone, whether it be a friend or a family member or a police officer or someone at the grocery store or whatever, tone of voice plays a big part in your communication with that person. Cut myself on a bush. Good job. Your tone could represent happiness. It could represent tolerance. It could represent anger. It could represent annoyance. You can make or break someone's day by how you approach a conversation with them. The moon is really pretty tonight. There's different ways I could say that. I can say the moon is really pretty. I can say the moon is really pretty. Or I could say the moon is really pretty. 3 separate sentences with the exact same wording, but the tone is different on all of them. When it comes to communication with someone, you have to recognize tone. If the person that you are trying to communicate with doesn't feel well, they may have a particular tone in their voice. If the person that you're communicating with is annoyed, they're going to have a particular tone in their voice. Somebody said something once, I think it was in a movie, and they were talking about dispensing with the pleasantries and getting down to business. When it comes to communication, sometimes we have to do just that. Sometimes we have to stop, ignore the pleasantries of hi and how are you, and all of the silly little things that we regularly do, and get down to business. Have a real conversation. Have a real talk with someone. You know, if we spent more time doing that, life overall would be a lot better. We'd have better relationships with our spouses or with our significant other. We'd have better relationships with our parents. We'd have better relationships with our friends, our family, our coworkers. Somewhere along the lines, we got lost in this, the hustle and bustle. I know I mentioned that in the last video, but it's kind of a recurring theme as of late with everything going on in the world. Communication is a huge part of our existence. Real, genuine communication. I mean, they talk about cavemen and stuff like that, and you go back to the beginning of time. We never would have survived without communication. So, are we losing that? Or is it simply evolving into something different that, frankly, just doesn't do us any good? We lose too much of what we want to say by not communicating properly and paying attention to the details. So, I guess my point for the whole thing tonight is that we need to take a step back. Talk to the person that you're with, talk to your friend, talk to whoever. The next time you have a conversation with someone, ask them how they're doing and really mean it. Don't just do the pass by, hey, how's it going? But have a real conversation with someone. It may change your life, or it may change theirs. You could save someone from doing something stupid. You could just brighten someone's day. But communication is key. So, well, that's all for tonight. So, thanks for listening again. Have a wonderful evening, and be human.